Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk.
This is Roger Chen from University of San Francisco Center for Business Studies and Innovation in Asia Pacific. Welcome to our interview program. First, we want to thank Geek House to host this interview. And this is a very unique venue where Facebook or Meta was founded several years ago. And in our today's interview, we want to welcome Brandon Wang from Synopsys. And Brandon, first, thank you very much. Would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, I've been in Silicon Valley for more than 30 years, right? So I started with the designers. Currently, I'm in the corporate strategy group at Synopsys. I was very fortunate to caught the internet boom when Silicon Valley moving from silicon to internet. And later I was with a company called ARM. We make the technologies that enables the mobile era. So again, very fortunately, grow with the mobile and see the valley from silicons to internet to mobile applications. And in the last 6 years with Synopsys, I'm focused on the corporate strategy, look at how a company sets strategy and enables both organic and inorganic growth.
Thank you. And also, I remember correctly, you are the vice president from the CEO office of Synopsys, yes, right? And in charge of corporate strategy, which is great.
Ways large companies work with and support startups.
You know, Silicon Valley has many startup companies and entrepreneurs. They are interested in knowing how to work with large corporations like Synopsys, right? In other words, from your perspective, large company perspective, when you decide to partner with startup companies, what factors do you consider? What's the criteria do you use when you evaluate and cooperate with the startup companies or entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, we kind of look at it. There's different types of startup company. If you look at the company, how a company grows, they really have a few instruments. One is to make and develop product themselves. We call them make or build. The second one is through acquisition, buying other companies. The third one is investment. If something that's in the longer horizon, maybe investment is best or better instrument. And then the last one is partnership, right? So back to your question is there are different types of startup that a large corporation should engage. One is the startup that later on will grow into a larger one in a category of customers.
Oh,
so those are the
customers.
Exactly. So we have, our our core business, I would say, is serving the semiconductor industry. So if someone started, let's say, a design house to do silicon design, that they can develop into our customer base. So that's one type of startups. The other startup is that actually is more towards the partner side, is they're developing could potentially either a competing technology or they developing a technology that filling the gaps of the spectrum that we already have. So these are companies that also, I usually call the developers communities, right? So started with very small, but they could grow and then they could potentially become our partners in terms of providing solutions, and also a partners that leads to technology license and all sorts of things, right? So that's different category.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right? It's different startup. As a larger corporate, we have to deal with these different type of startup in a different way.
That's very good. So maybe, it makes a lot of sense, range from potential customers to partners and to investment acquisition. Maybe could you briefly kind of give us high-level overview, about the criteria for each category, if you can?
I think that's really, being Silicon Valley for 30 plus years, really the core is really about the team. So we always look at, say,
I mean, the team of the startup companies.
Yeah,
that's very important.
It's very important. So let's talk about the semiconductor company, which is a startup community that could potentially become a large customer of us. As I mentioned, that we went through, the 70s, 80s, 90s of Silicon Valley being the primary silicon, moved to the internet era. And then decades later, moved to the mobile application development as Silicon Valley expand through the peninsula, connect to the city, because as the content app development, the cultures, the other elements, ingredient become more important.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not just about technology. There's art. There's other things. So to this era, we have seen this whole Silicon Valley ecosystem that's serving different things. But in the last 2 or 3 years, I would say Silicon Valley we've seen back into silicon. We call it the renaissance of silicon, because driven by AI. And so we have seen the number of startup or the startup gets funded has drastically increased in the last couple of years.
The number, you mean?
Yes. We have $5-6 billion so far for this year that's invest in silicon startup.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Just that category.
Yeah, just that category. So we call it the Silicon Valley, the renaissance of silicon. And silicon will be more pervasive into all sorts of applications. So given that, we do see a large potential that the large number of silicon startups, that some of them will develop into to become a bigger player. Right? So we definitely, as a company, we support that startup communities. Right? We work with, for example, give an example, we work with incubators for a very early stage startup. So they have a place that be able to get Synopsys enablement, such as IPs and tools that they can give them a head start. We also offer.
You mean Synopsys give them tools, give these startup tools to help them to grow and do their business.
Yeah, the agreement is we give this tool to these incubators, so that the early startup company can actually develop their idea early stage with the incubators, and they have access to the utilities and IPs and tools. Yeah. So that's one way. And the other ways that we do, we also have a so-called the cloud program for startups.
Okay.
So if a startup, let's say you don't have been joining an incubator, but you still want to have access, and sometimes the cloud program could be a better fit in terms of it provide instant enablement.
Oh, okay.
It needs much less setup. It does not really cost you less cash. Because cash flow is important for startups. Right. So they be able to go as we call it, use as they go.
Use as they go, right.
So but you still be able to enable the startups to start easier to start, right? So these are the things that we put out and support the silicon startups, right? Now back to the second category of startups, that there are so many smart people out there that they try to figure out the new algorithms, new applications to support the silicon designers. Right?
Okay.
So, you know, we are in a business of called EDA, electronic design automation.
Yeah.
So it's all about provide a certain algorithm, best algorithm fit for certain applications, so that the end IC designers be able to quickly to get their product, you know, to the market. So in that process, there's many innovations, and we also support those type of startups as well.
Okay.
We want them to be successful, and if they are really being successful, they could be part of Synopsys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it allows Synopsys to enter the new verticals, new applications.
Exactly. I mean, there's no way that you can always cover the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
So we usually call it the tuck-in deal that we do acquisition. Primary is to, you know, to have a technology be able to enable us to provide an integrated solution to our customers.
Attracting large partners in semiconductor space.
It seems to me actually Synopsys is a very, very strategic in supporting the startup community, which is a very broad term. As you mentioned, these different startups could play a different role in Synopsys business, right? And so let's say, you know, later on we'll talk about the acquisition, more specific things. Let's say from a startup perspective, what can they do, what they should do to when they approach large companies like Synopsys, so that they are better informed to either, you know, do the selection before they approach large company like Synopsys, or they do more effective preparation so that be ready and attractive to work with large companies like a Synopsys.
I think that as a deep tech company, right? So I think the renaissance of silicon also is kind of start of a deep tech.
Deep tech, okay.
So technology is always the largest barrier. And so that I think as a startup, you need to look at it, you know, what is the technology, the IPs, how unique it is, what is the threshold for other people to duplicate yours. That's always need to look at it from a silicon startup point of view.
So that's something Synopsys cares, actually.
We do, yeah. So, and depend on this, you know, the reason that in the past couple of decades, the silicon startup number has declined is because of the barrier of entry, the capex needed to have create that silicon. We call it tape out of the silicon. It's quite costly.
Oh, that's why, because the entry barrier is increased.
Yeah, so I cannot write you $1 million check and you got the product developed. Right? So a typical advanced nodes tape out costs you tens of $20s of millions just for the manufacturing part to get that part back. So the silicon startup does have high level of entry barrier. And that's where I think that, you know, as a startup, you can always raise your fund for the reason of this capex reason to expand the product.
For the audience, capex, when you say capex, you basically mean capital expenditure.
It's more, in terms of your money for build your infrastructure.
Invest, basically it's investment.
It's investment, right? So yeah, I think that's I would say that's quite different than during the internet kind of boom, because 2 or 3 people that can start it. Now, saying that, there's a lot of EDA startups that actually does not...
You mean electronic
design automation.
Okay.
So those are about software tool development to enable the IC design. And they don't need a lot of capital to move the needle. So back to answer your questions, depend on what type of company, right? So I think my advice for an EDA startup is not try to get a lot of investment from venture capital to start with.
They can push
because That's right, because you don't really need a lot of money, and your best investor is always your customers. And having a customer support you for your initial product prototyping, your MPIs, is actually a great demonstration of your technology.
That's a great point.
Yes.
So in other words, actually, if you got investment from the customer, that's already kind of a proof that market attraction.
Yeah. So I would suggest the first money you should go after is your target customers' money, not VC's money. But then again, if you are in the build up the silicon, you have a huge expenditure.
Yeah,
So I think that it's legit to say, hey, I need that money in order to bring my device back and validate it, right? So that's quite different depending on what type of startup. The bottom line here is you only want to get the money when you really need that money, right? And the last thing you want to say to get the money is just develop the core technology. And you should have your core technology ready. Not a product, commercial grade yet, but the core technology has to be ready, has to be developed.
Maybe that's an interesting distinction. Could you elaborate a little bit more between product and technology? Because you kind of clearly kind of put them in a different bucket. And so what's the difference when you say technology versus product?
Yeah, technology developed in the innovation centers, in the academic world, in the research institute, right? So that's not part of the thing that you want a VC to fund you. Right? So, but moving from from there, from we call it the lab to fab. So from there into a commercial grade product, it takes many steps. And I try to give an example of enterprise software, right? So you can have one guy write the software. You actually need 5 guys to validate the software to make sure it's high quality, it's commercial grade. You need to cover a broad application cases so that the software is not buggy. So that takes 90% of effort. Then you have ideas. Then you have your technology developed, right? So yeah, I would say never go to VC to say, hey, I need your money to develop my technology. You should have that in your bag. That's how the worth of your company. Right? But yes, I know that in the Silicon Valley, in Silicon industry, to moving from that idea into production, it takes many steps. And you actually need to ensure that each steps you have the best, probability of success.
Acquiring startup, objective, criteria, and integration.
I know Synopsys kind of does a lot of acquisitions. Maybe you can elaborate on this particular practice. For example, what is the process of evaluating potential acquisition target, do the due diligence, and more importantly, integrating after the acquisition? Because that's it's lots of things for startup companies to learn. If you can share that, because many startup companies will be interested in being the acquisition target of large companies like Synopsys. Could you elaborate on this to help the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, just like any corporate, the high-level principle of buying a company is for inorganic growth. So there's a couple of high-level angles to look at, and depend on the stage of the startup. So we've bought hundreds of companies in history, and we, last 3 years when I was in Synopsys, we did around like 20 deals. So it is really a lot of them, I would say, we call it the tuck-in. Basically, is acquisition of a unique technology.
Unique technology.
Yeah. So, but sometimes the acquisition, if from high level, I would say this is probably not specific, is that you either find a target to expand your market.
Okay, that's one reason for acquisition.
Yeah. And or you buy a company because that company have a unique technology. Most likely, hopefully, fill the gaps, right? So that it can be part of the integrated solution to the end customer. So sometimes that's where you buy company at different phase of that company, right? a lot of technology acquisitions could even happen earlier, not necessarily depend on the revenue of that startup, but heavily depending on the validation of the technology by our customers, right? So,
could you elaborate on this? That's a very interesting point. You mean some startup acquisitions, you can do it at a very early stage once the technology is validated by customers. So for that type of acquisition, it's mostly serving what kind of strategic objective of the company? Is it for the integration into the existing solutions, or for, because you're talking about the other objective could be the market expansion, for example. So for this very early investment decisions, typically it fits into what type of strategic objectives?
Yeah, these are usually smaller acquisitions, and we call it the tuck-in acquisitions. The purpose of it is to really the end goal is to provide a better solutions to our customer,
to improve your solution.
Yes, to our end customers.
Yeah.
Right? So you know that a good technology sometimes may not be the deployment of a technology takes time. And Synopsys can definitely accelerate that process, right? Because we already have a well-built channel.
Yeah.
Think about, we have thousands of people in the field selling product already.
Yeah.
So there's very, very natural synergy.
Makes sense.
About taking a technology and deploy through our well-established customer base, the channels, and quickly find that synergy and push this good technology
to scale up
quicker. For customer use. And that's where that, like any acquisition, we look at what are the synergetic value. And this has always been a good one. Of course, assuming that technology is truly valuable to our customer. Like, it's either that it has a very unique algorithm that can bring our entire performance to be better, or they fill some gap of application. A relatively niche application that ultimately help us to serve our customer better.
Okay, so does that mean actually, if acquisition is to help Synopsys to expand into a new market space, then probably you will kind of wait a little bit till the startup company is kind of mature enough, compare with the technology acquisition? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that for the latter stage companies, we definitely look at the revenues.
Oh, I see.
Right. It's all about how much market you have already penetrated, and how pervasive your solution has been deployed, the customer base. Now, this customer could be the same customer or could be adjacency customer.
Right.
So it provides not just better solution, but it provides additional solution to the customer base. So those are the different criteria as you develop your company into latter stage. You do need to look at the regular P&Ls of the company, the matrix that we've been talking about. How do you build your customer base? What's your revenue? And even sometimes how profitable you are.
So it sounds like actually for this type of market expansion type of acquisitions, you do look a lot of business related criteria, like revenues, growth potential.
Yes, when you have a certain size, you definitely have you can calculate your cash flows. Yeah, so you can build a better kind of financial model to value the company.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe the other thing you can just elaborate. After, for example, what is a Synopsys kind of internal process after acquiring a startup company, for example? What is the absorption process? What's the integration process or the routine, which I think it's very valuable for many large corporations to learn?
Yeah, I think since we have done a lot of acquisitions, I always consider that we are an early machine in terms of integrate technology into our product roadmap. So yes, it takes a lot of effort. The integration is a very key part about really realize the initial value that you initially target at. So I think that part it takes an entire team, but also it's important to have certain factors in your due diligence phase to be considered. So to basically smell what are the successful rate for that company or the team being integrated, right? So one of the things is the culture fit. Right?
Culture fit. So,
and it's harder to be reflected into your financial modeling. But it's very critical that you make sure that it is become our CEO called Wang Synopsys, right? So, it has to be integrated very naturally into our culture. Of course, product portfolio as well. It takes a lot of effort. Takes a lot of rework, right? It's that some of the infrastructure need a lot of rework. So we give times for these pieces to be part of the Synopsys.
Do you have a separate team specializing in the integration? And also relating to that, do you have a typical practice to handle or deal with these acquisition target? For example, do you put them in a separate as a separate entity, give them a lot of autonomy, or do you naturally disintegrate the start of a company and integrate back into the Synopsys systems? What's the process there?
No, depend on the stage of the company. The technology would be quite flexible. But we do have a dedicated team to do. It's cross-functional team with project leaders, and it takes all the different functions to be together, right? From people's, from ITs, from of course the product team, R&Ds, our product management team. It's a big effort together, right? Be able to do that. Some of them are transaction based, about renegotiate contract. Some of them are very R&D centric, about unify the data models and things like that. So it's crossed many different areas, and it's a long journey, but that is very very instrumental in terms of deciding how really successful this acquisition is. It's not at the time of close.
Right.
It's at the time when that piece truly materialized the initial value or synergy that you believe it can.
Right. So that's what we're talking about, the uncover the value. And also seems to me saying at Synopsys, you have a cross-functional team to manage this integration process, right? Can range from the renegotiate the contract with the startup customers to the data integrations and all sorts of things. Yeah, now I understand why it's a journey.
How to find and work with good startup partners.
Do you have any reflection about the mistakes actually for large companies make, or even startup companies make in these either the acquisitions or partnership with the startup companies? The lessons actually.
I think that I always say lessons we've been doing pretty well in that. But I think the key here is to really start in the early deal sourcing stage to make sure that you have a good synergies and alignment. I would say alignment with each of the business unit. So to understand what they need. It's not about how beautiful that company is. It's about how fit that target is to Synopsys, right? So this is slightly different as investment and other instrument I talked about in the beginning, right? So
right.
This is immediately become part of your organ,
Yeah, that's true.
That's why the fit part is a big deal.
Right. So
I think I would say we would have to even do better, continue to improve.
Right. So it's interesting talking about it's not how beautiful is the start of a company or how shiny is the start of a company. Rather, it's the buy-in from the BU. Could you elaborate? How do you get the BU to be involved and get their buy-in in this kind of whole journey of identifying, acquiring startup companies?
I think that one of the way you do is to really do a alignment. We used to call it a deal book, like once a year deal book.
What is that?
A workshop. Right?
A workshop.
Basically, you put the leaders, BO leaders, and you also listed the potential target. You have a get together, understanding, set priority. Understanding. It's really about alignment. So that that what you're gonna do for the rest of this year, right? So in order to go after the pieces that's most valuable to the company.
So basically, are you saying you almost like this kind of annual work, you present to the BUs about the potential acquisition targets?
I would say work with them.
The
BUs. Yeah, and by the way, the deal book cannot just lead to acquisition. I think we talk a lot about acquisition. Right?
Yeah.
But as I said, back to all the instruments of your company. Right?
Okay.
So it could be investment, right? It could be partnership. A startup could easily become a Synopsys vendor. Right? So and that's type of the partnership that we talk about, right? And it could be an OEM partnership, that startup solution combined with Synopsys solution that we still can leverage Synopsys channel to reach the customers. By having that technology selling through the same channel with Synopsys, it does not need acquisition to make that happen. So we have to really leverage all the instruments.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So and sometimes it's even for New Horizons, Synopsys maybe say, hey, we have this unique technology, and you are actually doing application on this particular domain. How about our technology to support you and selling through your application? Right. So these are the type of innovation I call the partnership and then the whole business model innovation on top of just technology innovation. So I think I would say the acquisition is one piece of it. But ultimately, you really need a broader view and from a target point of view, also not just directly your customer. You need to think about how do you build a broader ecosystem that bring the more parties to enable the end customers. I think that if you understand the semiconductor and the enterprise software, the key item is all about ecosystem. It's how pervasive, how broad your ecosystem is, how many users or customers you can reach through your ecosystem, and how much of enablement you have done so that the end product development, whether it's a customer or certain verticals, that people take it and then quickly for their product. So I think these are the broader aspect. And then just pick up the pieces.
It makes a lot of sense. Actually, basically, you're talking about this is a holistic strategy to engage with or leverage the startup also the startup community in a sense. One more question, maybe before we move on. For the deal book within Synopsys, I assume do you have like a dedicated department to put together this kind of candidate list, before you approach to the BUs to kind of discuss and those. Could you elaborate on that kind of work? Which department put together scouting this information, and also then
Yeah, I started the deal workshop with my team about 4 years ago.
Oh, your team started.
Yeah, so it is, it's just a get together, sort out the priorities, and more importantly, is discuss the criteria to sort out your priorities.
It's like before you reach out to find out the startup company, do these kind of works, or
yeah. So the deal sourcing come from all over the place. So you cannot say, okay, I'm the deal team, I'm the only one go out. So we're welcoming anybody to provide, target companies, right? As a matter of fact, I like our sales team.
Oh, even sales
they would, yeah, they did great deals also because they are the one upfront at the customer side.
Yeah.
And they know that the customer, they have constant conversations with our customer to say, if a customer say, hey, I'm not using your tools because I got a piece of alternative that's better, right? That's a demonstration of a technology is being deployed at.
Yeah.
So they provide good deal sourcing. So this deal book is not about limiting deal sourcing. Deal book is about line up with the stakeholders within a company to set the criteria of these coming years. What are the criteria? And you take the criteria. Of course, it's not single criteria. It's a list of criteria. And you actually use these criteria at certain weight. And you calculate the utility values of each of the potential target company that come through your pipeline. Right? And you calculate the utility values to say, hey, based on this year's criteria, that you'll be able to establish a priority list, right? So it's quite methodical.
Okay, it makes sense. Like almost like reminds me the weighted calculation for each company because you have different criteria and you give them assignment scores.
Yes, it's not driven by the deal source. What I'm saying here is that if something is so important, we're going to be proactively
search for
it, right? So it's proactive approach. Instead of say, hey, company A just happened to be on my desk. Can I take a look? Right? You can be on my desk very early, but I'm looking at other areas I want to fill. So it's really about set up the criteria, sort out the priorities, so that we have an aligned goal to go after.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you have to because you got a strategic direction, so you have to kind of go out to fulfill your strategic objectives, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How large companies manage startup investments.
Now we talk about enough about large companies like Synopsys working with the startup community, right? And maybe one more thing about investment, because we didn't touch on the investment. Anything you want to say about your decisions to decide investing in certain startup company? What's the objectives and what's the process you work with a startup company when you go with the investment route?
As we're relatively new in terms of investment. Synopsys,
basically, when you say investment, we're talking about corporate venture capital, right?
Exactly. So we actually don't have CVC.
Oh, we don't have.
We don't. We have decade-long acquisition, but investment here's kind of my view is that it's from a horizon point of view, investment is a longer time horizon. Right? So it's not about how you get it done this year, this quarter. It's look at to say what are the longer term direction that you want. And I think each different corporate have different strategy. As CVC usually is being classified as the strategic investors. The reason is because not necessarily the financial return is the first priority for a corporate investment, right? So there are strategic values that you want to bring, but the corporate investment, whether you have a CVC or you invest out of balance sheets, that's okay. That's just a format, right? But the strategic part the strategic value for a corporate investment is the common things across all the companies done that, even though the specific strategy are different for different companies, right? Some of them, let's say, given a few example, if your investment is trying to build a broader ecosystem, that could be one key strategy for you to invest, right? And you're investing upstream, downstream, kind of left and right. Yeah. Your investment could be simply discovery and learn. Right? Your investment could be an instrument for you to step into a new domain that your core business completely lack of understanding. Yeah. Right? So that establish conversations for you to have the opportunity to talk to the expert in a new domain. In the early phase, maybe the company may decide to step into that new verticals or not. That's a decision to be made later. But at least you have to have some process of discovery and learning, and more importantly, to build up your capability of doing a DD when the opportunity comes to you, right? So you actually have your, I call it proper judgment. Yeah. And that's very important. I mean, even in the acquisition phases, you can create a model left and right, but you know that you can tweak the numbers. A lot of time it's about your judgment. Yeah. And it's very important to build that capacity so that your intuitive judgment can be accurate. I wouldn't say accurate, but at least to provide some foundations for you to move forward. Yeah.
That makes lots of sense. To give you the avenue to learn and to explore and discover. But I have more operational related questions. I would imagine actually, if you, let's say for Synopsys, somebody doing the investment, this person needs to have some background information, the domain, a relevant domain knowledge, right? But at the same time, you constantly explore new things. So, for example, in the investment scenario, is the relevant BU people participating in this investment activities and also engage with the invested startup company to learn the relevant field, or is the corporate innovation team handling the relationship with interaction learning with the startup company? How do you deal with that?
It's completely different. The two concepts is completely different organization. Corporate innovation program that actually my team owns, the CIP, is about innovation within the company. At least, right? It's about energize every single employee to think and create new ideas, from ideation to demonstration of things. It's just imagine that it's a program incubating new ideas. It's a program that it's like a Shark Tank, competing with ideas. Right. That's a kind of corporate innovation program.
Right. That's internal. Right.
That's internal. It's quite different as investment, which is like more external facing. Right. So. But to answer your investment questions, you always need to have a synergy, right, to really pull the deal. And that synergy could potentially come from the BU. And some BU would say, hey, I'm pondering right now if that piece of utility I should build myself, or I should bring a partner that has that capacity so we can work together. And so there's always a kind of BU synergy, right? The factor we look at it. Not as strong as acquisition. Yeah. Usually that you need to think about all the operation details, but still you'll find the synergy. But depending on the purpose of investment, sometimes it may not be that the internal stakeholders may not be a BU, because it could not be lead into let's say, the startup company, we're not partnership for selling, together. So it's less related to necessary revenue. It could be part of the stakeholder, could be any functions within Synopsys. So that's slightly different because it's not always about talk about the top lines, and it could be. Let me give an example that we would partner with a startup to enable our IT function efficiencies. That you bring some
it makes sense.
Machine learning. So at that time, the stakeholder of that investment actually is our internal function, infrastructure function. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the investment has a much broader synergy angle to consider compared with the acquisition.
So the question, basically, my original question was, in that kind of a situation, do you let the relevant internal stakeholder to be the key kind of a person interacting with the startup company, or it is through, let's say, the whatever the departments that dealing with the startup companies to handle those interactions?
I think it will be case by case. We haven't done a lot of investment.
I see.
I think that the key here is that usually you do have to. I've been sitting in the board observers to the company we invest, but more look at watch out the startups overall direction. And their health condition, kind of thing. But if you would look at the ground level, operational level synergy, then you really need that function lead.
Yeah, because they're like inside it.
So they can discuss much deeper, right? In that I would say cooperation.
Right.
So you actually need both.
Okay.
You need a sponsorship. You need a high level kind of guidance, but you also need a people in the ground level to really work on the cooperation side.
Okay. Yeah, because originally what I really meant, it was like who handles this kind of interaction in the investment situation, whether it's corporate CVC people because they're dealing with the investment, or it was the relevant stakeholder.
It's actually both. If you look at the corporate CVCs, it already tells a story. It has to be both. What's corporate CVCs? There's a small team we call the investment team. This is something larger team. It's called the landing pad. So these are the people. It's part of CVCs. They're working to bring how these startup companies work with the initials. So the structure of CVC already tell you it has to be both.
Yeah, that's true.
It's quite different as you running a regular VCs because you're very much focused on the financial return.
Right, that is true. Yeah, because corporate venture capital has to be strategic, meaning it has to connect to the different stakeholders.
Yeah, you need to answer the synergy question.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Creating and running corporation internal innovation program.
Earlier, you briefly talked about the kind of internal innovation programs activities. Could you kind of tell us a little bit more about how does Synopsys kind of go with using the internal innovation programs to help the company to grow and adapt?
Yeah, we talk so much about acquisition, but organic growth remain to be a very probably the critical part of the company.
Okay.
Right? So here's what we figure out. What type of company you are. It's very critical. Are your company's primary value is about your user base, ecosystem, or your primary value is you have a technology, I call it the deep tech company, that is absolutely leading and create the differentiation offering, right? So depending on what type of company you create, right? So you can be starting up a restaurant versus starting up a social media company versus start up a deep tech company, right? So they're very different. So you have to understand.
Before you continue, I'm really looking forward to your continued story. Could you elaborate a little bit more? Because you talked about that whether your customers, value creation company versus deep tech. Could you elaborate? What do you mean deep technology company?
Yes, I think that if your company's unfair advantage in your competitive landscape are primarily relying on differentiation that you created from a technology differentiation. We call it the technology barrier, right?
Oh, I see.
18 months, 2 years for anybody to catch up your technology.
So in other words, you're always the pioneer.
So you're always leaders in technology.
Okay.
Right. So, and that is where I think that you need to kind of understand what is your competitive advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you classify yourself as a deep tech company, and you know how much of the innovation, the value of innovation,
right.
So you really need to encourage your employees to think, to have the innovative mindset. I would say that all the time, right? So that they are looking for better solutions, and they have felt passionate about the culture should encouraging ideations, right? So that's where a corporate innovation program should really bring in. It's not just about, it is really create an internal culture that encourage people to bring new ideas, try new ideas, fail fast, fail early, not discouraged, but continue to pursuing the next phase, right? So those are type of things that in the corporate program should be really in a high level mission is should try to create that, given the value of technology innovation in a deep tech company. But at the end of the day, if you look at Synopsys or any other tech companies, it's really the biggest asset is not the warehouse, the
facilities.
Facility is not, right? It's people, right? I think that's what that you really need to kind of look at, say, how do I energize the biggest asset of a company and maximize the value of these talents, right? So that's really the corporate innovation program is aiming at.
That's an excellent point. In other words, when you design these kind of internal innovation program, you have to clearly understand your identity, your key position in the market space. So I assume Synopsys want to be a deep technology company, want to be the pioneer in the relative space. Is that correct?
Yes, we've been always a deep tech company.
Oh, okay.
So we believe our value is to be very deep, being expert in the verticals we engage. And we've been very focused on nurturing the talents in this area. Yeah. So CIP is part of that mission.
That mission. Could you kind of maybe give us a little more information on how to kind of execute that design? For example, what kind of activities do you, what kind of program do you, how do you integrate the programs, things like that?
Yeah, it's many activities. I mean, we'll give an example. We have, 2 weeks ago, I was at Inno Days, which is a program run 10 years already in China. It's really about bringing the R&D ideas, and it's a pitch fest. So everybody pitched their ideas, and I was very fortunate to be a judge to look at those ideas. What would be good fit. And we have across the globe, we have many activities in different regions. This is not just headquartered in Silicon Valley, right? We have Innovate in India. We have, to give you some scale, we have many pitch event happened around the year at different regions. Even though we have this, like the finales in the headquarters, that people from different region comes.
Like a winners kind of,
Yes. We have this called May Madness. It's not March Madness, but May Madness is where the sweet 20s come from all the mini pitches happen different stage, and they will get together into this playoff kind of things. And within a week, we go through multiple phases of competition eliminations, and then we give the best idea the award. So these are the things that we really want to nurture the culture. Right. And then a lot of time you'll be surprised that the innovation not only happen in the product and engineering side. We have seen ideas from drastically increase our efficiencies in human resources.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So innovation program covers kind of the both aspects. One is the product and technology. We really want to bring that into bring the new ideas into deployment and become either
market facing kind of a thing.
Either become a product or become a new features. That's one aspect. The second aspect we want to achieve is really the culture of innovation. That's why we're welcoming all the ideas, even if it's not product related. And it's very important that the idea itself has its value. I know that a lot of time as an entrepreneur that you are the person who propose the idea and you're the person that actually implement, execute the idea. But in our CIPs, we would welcome people to propose idea that you may not the best person to implement that idea.
Oh, okay.
So, and with the corporate structure, you'll be figured out where is the best people, where is the best investment happening, if the idea is a good one, right? So it's really a wide open kind of innovation culture things, and then and across the globe, different region, year-round activities. We have many pitches happen every month.
That's fascinating. I have two related questions, two very different categories. One is maybe the first one is not even necessarily a question. I just guessed. For the first one, your team is responsible in handling call for proposals, being the judges, and making decisions. Is that your team to decide?
Yes, I was
involve relevant stakeholders or experts to do
Yes, we have a well-built platform for people to submit ideas. And even though we encourage any ideas, any idea is good idea, but it does go through a filter before the idea is become pitchable. So it's a automated platform. It's an infrastructure we build. And once you march through different phases, then you got a chance to do a regional pitch.
Competition, you're right, right.
We call it minute pitch.
Right.
And then you move to the regional kind of finale. So it's a well-built process. Yeah.
But I assume you.
But in terms of your judge.
That's key.
In terms of judge, we can't. Our team is small. We can't be judge. We cannot be expert.
Right. That's exactly my question.
We have a committee. That we organize. We're going to invite we call it the domain expert.
Okay.
So depending on what the idea is, what category the idea falls in, and we would have derived them into the committee, the judge panel composed of business savvy people. We'll look at it and say, hey, what's the value? Okay. And there's technology experts. They would say, hey, your idea is completely not feasible. It's like, yes, but it's a good idea, but I'm going to challenge you to see, and why Synopsys is the best person to do that idea. Right. So there is a person from my team to look and say, hey, that's a great idea, but we can't find a partner to do that better. Then we do insight back to our growth instrument. You have to leverage all the 4 growth instruments in order to nurture the growth, right? So there's different people sitting in the judge panel in a different phase, but our finale, which is the headquarter, it has our corporate executive in there. The staff that reports to the CEO. Okay. Because ultimately, that's that's the judgment we like hear from the leaders of the company on this idea. Yeah,
because that kind of visibility, and also strategic alignment becomes extremely crucial, right?
Yes. So different phase, we have different committee, different judge in order to create that idea. It's not just about the idea. If you look at the early phase of the pitch fest, it's not just about judge the idea itself. It's about advising that idea proposal team.
So let's say for winner, actually, if you see the potential in this particular project team or idea is able to elevate to the next level, they will get that advice and revise the idea.
We actually assign a mentor to that team. Because it's hard to have a idea proposed by a lot of time even by a team to have the full aspect.
Yeah,
Like
because there's
sometimes-
scope of,
Sometimes it's like 3 engineers, beautiful idea. We would assign a business mentor to tell them to say, how do I make this idea a business proposal?
It makes a lot of sense.
So the process of the early phase of the ideation of pitching is not just be a judge.
That's a very important point.
It's nurturing.
Improving the idea as well.
Yes.
Okay. So the second question relating to that, because in the corporate innovation area, some people criticize this kind of corporate innovation activities mainly focusing on the stage, they call it a stage show, which basically means the competition, but less on so what, meaning after you made a selection and what's happening. In other words, actually, how do you turn these great idea into real results? That whole journey. So what's the Synopsys answer to that question when you select some good idea, even at the different levels, like, right? Some regional good ideas, some good idea at the corporate level. So what happens after that to make sure those ideas become a real results, like execution monitoring, milestones, those kind of things?
Yeah, so my team focus on the front end side, which is the ideation part. Yes, so they are a corporate function, a corporate incubation program.
Oh, okay.
And they are more looking at it. But also a lot of idea, it could be a relatively incremental idea. Not about, hey, let's do something brand new. But so I think a lot of incremental idea is actually being sponsored or working within each of the BUs, the R&D groups, right? So it's really neat. I'll give one example. Last week I was at our largest internal conference, technical conference called the Engineering Innovation Leadership Conference. It happens once a year. It has, I don't know, 500-600 people that come from different regions and to demonstrate their work. See, that's a different as a pitch event.
Right.
Pitch event is about the idea. When you really bring the work into a conference, you have to have done the demonstration to showing that it's not just idea, it has feasibility, it has a result and shown here. So to answer your question is that you really have to face it. When we finish Pitch Fest finale in May, our engineering, this innovation conference happened in September. There's a lengthy period for people to turn an idea to be demonstratable work. And when that demonstration, that's what's happening in that conference, is people to say, hey, here it was an initial idea, here is my work.
Oh, it's almost like the prototype of kind of a idea.
Yes, yeah. Basically, it could be depend on the how scope of the idea. Sometimes it's some sort of scum work you put together. Sometimes it is pretty nice prototype, not production version, but version. It has different stages. We have a broad presentation and posters. It was a great event. It happened last week at the Fremont Hotel in San Jose.
That's interesting. Do you have also the mechanism within the company to track, the final results of these innovation idea that bring to the companies? You do?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. There's a KPI to tracking how many idea gets integrated or as a feature or as even a new product. So it's definitely, we used to call the pitch event Shark Tank. For the copyright issue, we changed to Pitch Fest. Right? I still remember in 2018, so we had the first Shark Tank event, and the winner of that Shark Tank event, they actually now develop into hundreds of millions of revenue.
That's a big success, right?
Yeah, it's a big success. We called I think at that time the project name is different, but ultimately when we go to market, they become this brand new concept we call Silicon Lifecycle Management.
Thank you.
Lessons and examples that helped my career development.
You are quite successful in your professional career. Maybe the first question is, could you kind of reflect your, kind of a culture background, whether it gives you some advantages or give you some challenges in your professional development that leads you to who you are today professionally?
No, I'm absolutely not optimized or maximize my careers. It definitely, but looking back, I felt like in the early stage, maybe touching up a different area is critical. I know that you can, easily fall in love with one thing, but as you become more seniors, and you know that a lot of time you rely on your intuitive judgment. I know we're in the era of data driven. Yeah. We use it all the time, but it's always to use the data to help you to do the judgment. So I always benefit by explore many new things in your early part of the career. Don't say, hey, I'm a machine learning engineer and that is doing,
only that
different
kind of thing.
Yeah, so you need to try different things, right? I started my career as a designer, so I've been designing anything I could possibly silicon can do, from communications to CPUs to memories to interface networking. Like, I'm not rejecting any of the area. The good thing now, looking back, is that I always felt myself had a little bit tangible understanding of certain that helps me to really be able to kind of tap in. It's quite different if you even you spend just 2 months of hands-on something versus some area that you have never done yourself.
That kind of broadening your scope.
Yeah, I mean, I still look at the domains I have zero tangible experience, and it turned to be very difficult because I don't really have an intuitive judgment. So that's a good thing in your early career, is not contain yourself into something, right? Just explore, not only on the technology side, but also in type of companies. Right? It is great to be an entrepreneur, to even join a startup, understand how startup runs. Your opportunity cost for joining a startup at the early stage of your career is much lower than at your senior year.
That's true.
And so do it, right? So it's not just about, oh, I want to learn these things. About, from business sense, is to jump to different entities, different companies, feel their culture, and understand how it's run. Whether you are the founders or you are the early employer. So mix together with your larger corporate experience, that's another horizon you look at it, versus the technology domain that you try to take dab off. Yeah.
That's great. Actually, these are all great advice to young people. Do you have other kind of career development advices, especially on, let's say, the human skill side of it, besides these professional skills, perspectives?
You mean soft skill?
Yeah, soft skill area, for example.
Yeah, I think in general, I think that we, for everybody grown up and raised in different countries, have different kind of culture instinct, right? Not something that you can change immediately.
That's true.
And not try to change immediately. You have to learn, adapt, but meanwhile, keep thinking about what other things I can leverage and take advantage of it. I'm going to give two examples.
That's
one
great.
One is adapting. The second one is leverage. Adapting, for example, that if you really think about how you become more senior, you need to really understand, let's say if you're in the US, you understand the culture.
Right.
One of the areas that we need to build is your executive presence. It's it's a very soft skill, but you need to really gradually build that.
What do you mean executive presence?
Yeah, it's a soft skill combining with leaderships, your charisma, your attitude, your team building capabilities. It's basically, in the short, is when you walk into the room, how you shine as a leader.
Okay.
Yes, those are very not necessarily part of us, if you were raised in more Asian communities,
Right. Okay.
you learn how to be modest, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say you have to adapt.
Mm.
And depending on which region you're going to start your company, that you have to adapt the culture. That's one example. The second one is the leverage. Leverage about what you already have and maximize the value of it. The example is I always think about the reciprocal principle because that's very strongly rooted in a lot of Asian community raise up.
Right.
How do you pay back to the people?
Right.
Yeah. And but then you look at it in the corporate career-wise, this is a very widely adopted principle, right? So how do you build relationships by, build this reciprocal relationship
with the different departments, colleagues.
Okay. We always talk about the soft skill of managing with our authorities. Really,
influence in a sense.
So, but how do you influence? That it's really reciprocal, means that every single day you are asking people about how do I help you, what help you need, and you always provide a helping hand. Sometimes your 1 hour help is worth 1 day's of work, right? Because of your skill set, your experience. Don't be shy away from giving out that help, because every activity you do, you deposit a little chips into your bank.
That's true.
And as you build this credibility, then when the time you need it, when you withdraw, you will see how powerful that influence, that credit you have in order to build, right? So this is a principle, a reciprocal principle that for a lot of Asian communities is part of us when we grow up. Yeah, that's true. And maximize it and be proactive on it, so that you will be able to really become a leader, because you will realize a lot of time is about pulling different stakeholders together. And I always, this is something that I cannot assign you as a task, or your manager cannot say, hey, Brandon, do this. Right. Because it's not the regular charter. Right. But it will come into efficiency to manage you. For example, I told my team to say, I need this to be done in a week. Different team member come back. Some people, they get it done overnight. Some people, it takes 3 weeks. And then ask them, what you do in 3 weeks? The 3 weeks guy is trying to build a credit, build influence within that time frame in order to move the needle. The guy get things done in 1 day is because he has built all these based on the reciprocal principle already. So when I call him and say, hey, Roger, can you get it done? He is comfortable to call that other guys at 11 p.m. I see. They say, hey, what's that? Right? The other guys say, can we make an appointment to have a lunch next week? So it is all built. And my measurement as a manager, I just look at how quickly you get the outcome. Yes, the outcome, right? So, but the outcome is not really happening about your capability, how good skill you have at that moment is accumulation of that. So I'll give this another example to how you leverage yourself, right? So it's you need to look at adapting and leverage two parts concurrently in order to maximize your value.
Real competitive edge and opportunity in the AI era.
Can you kind of give us your version of your prediction about the big opportunities relating to AI, or maybe in your domain space, so that, from your perspective, what are the big opportunities?
Well, for silicon, this is really great, because the AI really requires a lot of insatiable computation power, right? So that comes from the silicon. So silicon will be everywhere. When I, in the beginning, mentioned the silicon renaissance, is really about, you're going to see that all the applications will have silicon in it. So the first benefit from the business I'm in is huge TAM expansion.
Can like a total addressable market expansion.
It's
Okay.
expansion of people just it's a pure usage of silicon, right? Silicon is more pervasive in anywhere, right?
When you say silicon, actually for audience basically mean semiconductor chips.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first, I think, immediate impact, which is great news, right? So if you look at, as I said, you know, the tech reduction happens due to macro, but I think in the silicon side, we are starving for talents.
Starving for talents.
Yes, we have more demand than we can be able to satisfy, right? So this is great. Number one. The second one is AI technology as a general technology. When I say that, is that, you know, in Silicon Valley, every 2 or 3 years, you'll have a new hot area.
Yes.
We've gone through, you know, group huddle, social media.
Right, that's true. Like every waves, different waves.
Every waves, a couple years away, but they all tends to be focused on in vertical.
Okay, one area.
One area. But when you come into an innovation, I call the level of earthquake in terms of measure the disruption it created. Then the real technology disruption happens. It's not 2 or 3 years. It happens like once every 1 or 2 decades. The last time we see massive technology disruption is the internet, which is 20 years ago.
It's a very fundamental.
It's 20-something years ago. It's a fundamental, and this is after 20-some years. Now you see AI is another one, right? It's not about a particular vertical.
Right.
It is about the massive impact of this disruption that it can bring, right? So now back to your question is, what is the second phase, not immediately to my business, which is great, which is the first one, the TAM expansion. But the second one is, what's the impact to us in general, not just me or Synopsys, in general, or a tech community, is that we have to find a way, definitely, to ride this disruption. So there's a few things. One is that integrate AI in your work, whether you're developing product, doing anything. It doesn't matter.
That's going to be a fundamental change.
Fundamental change, whether you're doing marketing or you're doing technology development, or even your human resource. You think about how much AI can be part of you. And this is, I call, you have to do it. Actually, you don't have choices. Whether it's how it, because if you don't do it, your competitor will do it.
It forces you to do it.
So it is almost to, 10 years from now, you look at it, it's a hygiene factor.
That's true.
But then the argument is, well, since everybody's going to have it, it may not change the whole competitive landscape, right? Because our competitor will have it. Now it comes down to see how quickly you can have it, right? So it becomes a timing play. If usually in the tech domain, we know that if you're 18 months, 2 years ahead of the competitors, you have some, some stickiness. You create it. But if you're only leading 6 months, or you cannot scale in a year, then your competitor can catch up. But given AI is such a fundamental technology, it's going to be everywhere. So how do you set and pick AI as the element to certain application that bring the most value and bring the most unfair advantage, right? That's you need to set the priority of that, right? So this is very broad, and it's not just limited to tech company, but being a tech company that you would have better understanding of the technology itself and how it impacts all the aspects, right? That's kind of the second phase of AI, which if you do it well, it's a blessing. If you don't do it well, it's a curse. So, but it is I call it the deploy AI into the existing application you already have, the product already do, and make it better.
right.
But if you look at the internet, the most interesting phase is it's not about, okay, internet make online airline booking faster because all the airline have it.
Right.
It's not about bring this database so that banking can be more efficient because every bank has it, right? So the real internet happened 20 years ago is to create an application was not imaginable.
Like a new categories.
New category, new applications, like e-commerce was it's not imaginable without it. So these are the most beneficial of technology disruption. The company born out to create application that was not imaginable without this particular disruption.
Technology.
Those are the most beneficial. Right? You look at the largest company, AWS, Alibaba, they are the fruit of that technology. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you have an opportunity working on a new application to leverage this disruption, super high earthquake level of technology disruption, there absolutely is a way to go.
Yeah, the company that comes into mind is like a Netflix or Google. You never imagine a company like a Google without internet.
Exactly. So I know that you probably have your work, your job, your every day, and you are super excited about, hey, machine learning, AI, and they make my product efficient. But sometimes come down to say, what are the new applications? Not the product in my hand. It's something new that I created that could enter the next phase. They call the new industry revolution.
Have you seen any signs or possible candidates that may become the new like a native AI categories?
I would say this: we're in very early innings of AI technologies. Everything that we talk about is large language model. Is I call the infrastructure play. How about training? What's training? It's a cost. It's not application. It's a cost. So we're in early inning in terms of from pure technology development phase. The early inning means we are in the capital infusion stage. It's about investment stage. It's to build the strongest infrastructure that be able to have a potential to be applied into different verticals. New verticals.
New verticals.
The bottom line here is that investment is not the goal. Return is the goal.
That's true.
ROI, return on investment. Where the return will be happening. The return will be happening at each of the applications.
That's true. That's true. So,
super promising because it's so early. When you ask the question, is that people are explore all the different verticals and to see what this technology can bring me. Of course, the people's first look at is the existing vertical.
That's true.
Because as a corporate guy, you always look at the TAM. And if a vertical is, Jensen Huang called it, $0 billion market, right? So basically, it's non-existing, but potential is high. It does not impact immediately your next quarter or next year. And that's where the entrepreneur can have an unfair advantage because they start at zero,
that's true.
And they can dive, there's much less opportunity cost for them. Corporate need to busy to take care of their existing product with AIs, but you can focus on explore the new areas. So that's where I'm super excited for entrepreneur for the next phase. It's not, you don't have to create another GPU to do LLM, right? The capex is too high. It's lay down the internet cable across the Pacific that we are doing in that phase. But the entire 2.5 decades of innovation happens in the verticals application.
That's true.
It's not about putting $100 billion to lay down the cables, opticals across the Pacific.
That's the foundation.
That's the foundation. So we are early innings about investment to build a good enough foundation. And of course, that is where we keep talking about data, computations, and algorithms to enable that foundation. But the verticals application, the new application happening in the next phase is so amazing because given the level of the disruption, it almost impact entire thing, right?
Yeah,
So that's where I feel like we should be way more optimistic than the permissive side of AI going to be, replacing job and things like this. Because
right, that's true. That's true. That's
yes,
a very good point.
yes.
Because it's kind of, they always view like a zero-sum game.
It's not zero sum.
Yeah.
It's zero sum or negative sum when you don't have demand to use your resources.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, I need AI are going to be, what am I going to do with AI? I can cut my 100 people to be 50 people.
Right.
But think about the imagination about the application QA is that if you're in a situation to say, I have so much business comes in, the new application comes in, my 100 people cannot handle this.
Right, that's true.
And I have to reject some of the business because I don't have enough people.
Yeah.
That's where you can say, hey, let AI reduce my existing team to be 20 people. So I have 80 people to serve the new application.
Right, that's true.
So the innovative and exciting part is about what are the new applications going to come in? Going to stir the whole new way of growth. A growth means the bring many, many years later's GDP, maybe this year, right? So that the entire possibility of future application that we've been kind of dream about is now suddenly so closer to our product, our applications, so that ultimately add into the growth.
Yeah, that's great, actually. That's a really, I 100% agree with you, actually. And I want to thank you.
Thank you for watching.